Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mayor Gallego, thank you again for being here. As you know, better than probably anybody, Phoenix is a urban heat island experiencing higher temperatures than the surrounding rural areas due to the lack of vegetation and the use of asphalt and concrete that absorb a lot of the heat. An estimated 45% of Metro Phoenix residents live in an area where the urban heat island effect raises temperatures by about 8 degrees or more. And this is why I worked to include the Healthy Streets program, which I think you mentioned in your opening remarks, and we put that in the bipartisan infrastructure law, which would fund initiatives such as cool pavement projects that mitigate the effects of this extreme heat. So, Mayor, why is it critical for Congress to fund programs that help vulnerable cities like Phoenix become more resilient to the effects of extreme heat?
Thank you for your leadership on that program. We are at a point now where we are going to have to adapt cities to hotter environments. Phoenix now talks to cities all around the country, including in the northernmost parts of our country, about heat challenges. This is a national problem, and we appreciate you coming up with a national solution. The heat can be deadly. We are losing more Americans to heat than any other type of natural disaster, but our infrastructure funding hasn't caught up with that reality yet. Even some of the coldest states in the country have had terrible heat waves with an incredible loss of life. We know the solutions. There are building material changes, design changes that can save lives. Your program will help cities, rural communities, tribes get the funding to make those changes, many of which require us to design infrastructure very differently.
I had a roundtable back in Phoenix on extreme heat just last week, and the number of deaths nationwide from extreme heat exceed every other natural disaster combined. It is a real problem that, and it's also associated with the thing we're going to talk about next here. I want to little bit about energy. It's our grid. The grid goes down in Phoenix. The estimates are that somewhere up to maybe half of the residents of the city will wind up in an emergency room if it happens during a certain time of year in the summer when the heat is the highest. So I want to talk about mentioning electricity here. Data centers, chip manufacturing, and other industrial expansion in Phoenix is putting pressure on our infrastructure. And as our population grows to fuel this technology boom, how does our electrical and transportation infrastructure need to respond? And since this is transportation, maybe we should focus on that.
Right. Well, when you look at, so we are seeing a huge boom in data center and advanced manufacturing. Just in the Phoenix metro, the data centers have requested 32 gigawatts of new electricity. The amount of damage that, the impact this would have on our streets with all of these these are huge construction sites. In our case, we have it, in many cases, right up against residential, so very high impact, and you're seeing a lot of truck traffic. Water is a different impact, but the amount of infrastructure investment is something we really need to talk about. Data centers are very vulnerable to heat, so the cooling impact in a community.
And to put the 32 gigawatts into perspective, the current SRP and APS, the two utilities, provide about 16 for the entire county right now. So the requested over a number of years, I think it's 5 to 10 years, exceeds what is currently on the grid right now.
It does, and this is a trend we're not talking about enough as a country. What does it mean if in a few short years we're asking our utilities to completely replicate themselves? I am so grateful, are paying attention to the infrastructure side of that, because the amount of traffic in areas that have not seen traffic, we should probably talk about hazardous materials on our streets. They will be going places they haven't, and it may be time to have new conversations about that. The data centers, there's a conversation in Arizona and several other states about small modular reactors, so that would put nuclear material in areas that have not seen nuclear material before. Phoenix is the 5th largest city in the country. Our transportation department needs your support to navigate that, as do our firefighters and others who will need new types of training. If we are going to see this change, we have to look at how it impacts our street network. There might be some time where we might also be able to reduce regulation, particularly around semiconductors. There's some hazardous material regulation that we might be able to update to be able to make it a little bit easier to do business. But it really is time to look at the types of material that will be traveling on streets that have never seen it before and how we have the appropriate regulatory system from the federal government for these issues.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for being here.